Good afternoon, good evening. Good evening, good evening. Good evening. अच्छा ठीक. Good evening, good evening. Yes, tonight art and culture. We have a webinar after this. I'll only take it. 15 minutes break we'll take and then we'll start. You told we'll discuss previous year questions. Sure. We'll discuss previous year questions. I'll tell you when we will discuss. Not here, between the webinar and class. Remember, you're already part of it. If your student, PTS is already inbuilt into your course. We'll wait one more minute, 1.5 minutes, and then we'll start. It's an art and culture one. I will summarize Buddhism, Jainism, don't worry about that. Yes, they are monks like Buddhas who became later sub-gods. Jainism, Buddhism, how many questions? 1 to 2 every time. Just if you want to. I forwarded Aromal, don't worry about that. I have also, Aditya, forwarded it forward to the people who will take a call. I am not the one who can take a call on that. I have already sent it. Are Ajivings and Jain monks the same? No. Yes, Aditya. Once they take a call. What will you teach in art and culture class? Well, you join me and you see what is taught. The topics would already have been intimated to you. Webinars are mostly main prelims oriented. Mains question don't come from this area. 1 more minute and when we start. I don't know, Shagun, what you have written. Sight from east to west is something which happens in net and all, not in this. If Jainism is older, why is it not placed before? Jainism, religion is not oldest, philosophy is the oldest. That's a separate issue altogether. Enrolled students don't have to pay separately for PTS. It's part of the course itself. Okay. Jivikism is a religion which still exists. Buddhism, Jainism are contemporaries to each other. Exact dates are not known. You can give it online, offline. You know the PTS, you would have got an email about it. Check your email. Lesser vehicle called by Mahayanic Buddhism the vehicle to moksha. Okay, now yesterday, prelims test series PTS. Yesterday we discussed the doctrines of Jainism. We did Buddhism yesterday, and within Buddhism we understood the three ratnas, the three ratans of Buddhism. Thereafter, questions from Mahajan Pata come for match the following. Yes, why not? But haven't come till this point. Can be made like that, can come at any point of time like that. Don't worry about that. See, first stop obsessing over questions. Because the purpose of studying ancient and medieval is not just to do questions, is to create a base for art and culture. So your obsession with questions, the thirst will be gone, but right now concentrate on what really matters. So the utilitarians in the class, what type of questions come, any type of question can come. And there's no end to this. The basic point I'm telling you, whatever we are doing is not just for questions, is for basically doing the questions related to what we call as art and culture. So really don't waste your time in obsessing over questions. The previous year questions will be done with you. I don't know why you have this obsessive urge after solving them yourself to solve it here also. And over and above that, by solving previous year questions, you don't achieve anything, zero. Because UPSC questions never get repeated. So even by solving that, you are not getting anything out of it. Nothing at all out of it. UPSC has never repeated questions. So rather than just checking the type of question and the depth of that topic, which I know without even doing the questions, what is the point of this obsession? I don't understand. Every batch, 2 to 3, 4 will basically be that KBC type of feel you want. And that is not how history works. You may have done it in polity, may have done it in economics, may have done it in other subjects. There is a standalone topic. This is much more complex and interconnected than just a random chapter on a random thing. So I'm telling you, when the time will come, I will do questions with you. Stop doing this. And what type of questions can be made? Questions can be made any type. Match the following: factual, conceptual, all types. That is why the discussion is in different levels. In Buddhism, Jainism, there can be n number of questions. So I can easily ignore you in the chat box, but I'm not doing that because I'm just telling you, stop hyperventilating on things which don't matter. Really don't matter. So we will cover previous year questions when the first 4 to 5 modules are covered, because there's interconnected questions. Buddha death is a questionable date. Dates will be multiple. You will Google it, you'll find a different date. When you will not in books, you'll find a different date. These are not absolute. 20, 30 years up down is standard in ancient India. Can we start a discussion? Okay. And a lot of you are joining quite late. I know everybody's joining time. So if you don't know it, I'm telling you right now. I know everybody's joining time. This fashionably 13, 20, 14 minutes late. I will not wait for 13, 14 minutes. I will start within the first 5 or 10. So I'm telling you, whoever has joined in the past 5 minutes. So this fashionably late thing not going to work. Then if you'll ask me questions, I know when you joined, I will not answer also. So it becomes a vicious circle. Okay. Now, Buddhism, we discussed the 3 Ratnas. Then we discussed the 4 truths, noble truths. And thereafter, the eightfold path. When we had covered this is the core philosophy of Buddhism. We went to the 4 Buddhist councils. And from the 4 Buddhist councils itself, we saw that at 2 books were written, which is Vinay and Sutta, here Abhidhamma. And 2 and 4, you have the splits. One Theravada and Mahasangika, the other one Mahasangika splitting up into Mahayanic and Hinayanic. We discussed Mahayanic, Hinayanic and Vajrayanic. And Mahayanic Buddhism, we discussed how Buddha is God, Bodhisattva concept, and over and above that, the idol worship. Hinayanic, only symbols. There is no idol worship. Buddha is a teacher. Vajrayanic is an offshoot of Mahayanic itself, wherein there is a lot of what we call as impatience within Mahayanic Buddhism. So Vajrayanic Buddhism develops as for Tantra and Mantra. Here it's Tantra, Mantra, and Yantra, which is the tantric form of Buddhism, which is Vajrayanic. Offshoot means that it comes out of. It is a product of the Mahayanic Buddhist idea. Now, within Jainism, we understood that Jain philosophy is quite old according to Jain mythology itself. And Jainism philosophy is linked to a person called Rishabhnath. However, when Rishabhnath was alive, there was no need for making a religion. And that is why next 23 Tirthankars or Jinas did not institutionalize. But when it came to the 24th, which is Mardaman Mahavir, the 25th Jina never came, and therefore the 24th Tirthankar, which is Vardhaman Mahavir or Mahavir itself, he will institutionalize Jain religion itself. So Jain philosophy is quite old, but Jain religion is a contemporary of Buddhism itself. And we also understood how Jainism is a very difficult religion to follow because the rules and regulations for the monks is very, very difficult, wherein you have the 5 Mahavrats which you have to take. And we discussed that how these Mahavratas or the Panch Mahavratas, the 5 promises which they have to make, are quite difficult to follow generally. From ahimsa to not uttering any falsehood, to not steal anything, to have a celibate life, and to not possess anything. Monk's life is very, very difficult. These are not the vrats which the people take, but this is the monks which they take. People have to follow certain rules which are called anuvratas. Anuvratas means diluted form of this, but because Jainism is uncompromising on violence, the issue was that it never became very, very, very popular with rulers. Rather, it was popular with the merchant community, not rulers. And Jainism generally is much, much, much less popular than Buddhism because of its very difficult rules and regulations, from vegetarianism to ideas of not hurting animals and plants to renunciation, and the fact that you have to be very clear how you live life and how you conduct yourself. Inner purification, the idea that before you became a Jain, everything was a sin. Karma is sin itself. In turn means that there's an obsession with inner purification, an obsession with the fact that you have to in a way self-punish. Punishment of the self is a way of cleansing of everything. So cleansing or self-purification via what we call as self-penance is something which is quite important. Is something which is quite important that way, which is the idea, that in Buddhism there is meditative positions. There's a meditative idea. Here it is about, in a way, that is why Salikhana also exists, wherein you die of fasting, wherein you give up everything, and when you give up food also, you go to samadhi in that sense. So very simply, Jainism is a very, very, very difficult religion to follow generally. And that is why it was not that popular as Buddhism. Buddhism became very popular, Jainism did not. Because of the Anuvratas and the Mahavratas, very, very difficult that way. And in that sense, becoming a Jain monk is also quite difficult. Whilst Buddhism today has become diluted quite a lot, Jainism still exists in its core form in multiple communities across India. Now, like Buddhism, this is what we did yesterday. Yes or no? This is what we did yesterday. The idea of Buddhism, the idea of Jainism, basic concept is what we covered yesterday. Yes? Now, like Mahayanic and Hinayanic, there are also two schools within Jains. One is called Digambar, and the other one are called Shwetambar. Now, the idea of Digambar Shwetambar is quite simple. The Jain community in North India had to basically get divided into two groups when there was a major drought-like situation in Magad and that whole sector. The Jain groups divided themselves into two. One went to South India in order to Jainism to survive, and the other went to North India, or were in North India, remained in North India. The ones who remained in North India called themselves Shwetambar, and the ones who went to South India are called Digambar. Now, there's a major difference between the two when it comes to clothing. Other than that, there's no major difference generally. The core ideology is both worship Mahavira, worship the Tirthankars and Jina, but the name itself has the catch. The fact is, Mahavira, we know, had given up everything from clothing to everything, and therefore Jain monks were known to be nude, and Mahavira and all Tirthankars before him were like that only. Now, Digambars believe that how Mahavira was nude, we also should not wear clothes, and that is why they are called Digambar. Dig means the sky is their cloth, and till today, Digambar monks, if you've ever seen, or if you have ever seen a procession of a Jain monk, Digambar monk, you would know that they don't wear clothes till today. On the other hand, Shwetambar believe that yes, Mahavira did not wear clothes. However, that process, that concept does not stand any relevance when it comes to 6th century BC and forward, and they wear white clothes. So you will see that there are two types of Jains today: monks, not people, monks. One who are Digambar, the other who are Shwetambar. Digambar monks will never wear clothes. Shwetambar monks wear white colored clothes. And the concept was very simple. Because Digambar monks did not wear clothes, there was a and there was no monk was, or no nun tradition was there. Because women were not allowed to become monks in the Digambar tradition itself. It is only in Shwetambar where we start to find Jain women nuns and monks. And therefore, the idea is very straightforward, simple. The only difference between Shwetambar, Digambar is on the issue of clothing. One says, and both agree, that Mahavira and his disciples did not wear clothes. Digambar want to renounce everything. They only have two things. These monks either have a small broom to brush off any insects so that they don't kill them, because that is also violence. And they have a simple, straightforward lota, which is called a kamandu, for basic toilet hygiene. On the other hand, Shwetambar believe that this practice is obsolete now. We should not go for full nudity, and therefore they also modify the vrats for the people and wear white clothes. So white clothes means Shwetambar, Digambar means no clothes. This is not as complicated as the Mahayanic or Hinayanic. Are we clear about this? Are we clear about this? Yes? Okay. Now I told you that there are subsects. There are 18 subsects in Buddhism, but there are only 5 to 6 subsects. Water guard means lota. There are only 5 to 6 subjects in Jainism. And in the examination, what they do is that they mix up these two together. They mix up these two together. Wherein you have 2-3 options which will be Jain, or 2 or 1 option will be Jain, and 2-3 Buddhist together. And therefore, what happens is that if you know the Jain ones, you can easily come to the answer. So when we talk about Jains, we divide them into two: Digambar, Shwetambar. Digambar, Shwetambar, and Digambar, Shwetambar are further divided into 3 groups here, 3 groups here. Here one is called Mool Sang. Mool Sang means main old group. And then you have Taranpanthi, Terapanthi, and Bispanthi. And the basic idea is that they are the ones who were part of the original sect itself, and later the Mool Sang basically gave rise to 3 to 4 groups within it, called Bis, Tera, Taran, because you don't have to remember Panthi. Now Shwetambar has more. Shwetambar has 3, and they're quite different to each other. One is called Murti Pujak, then Sthanakvasi, and Terapanthi. Now the concept is, as the name itself says, Sthanakvasis worship monks. They worship monks or Jain monks. On the other hand, Murti Pujaks worship the murtis or idols of Tirthankars. And Taranpanthis are also monks. But there's a difference between them further. Sthanakvasi will pray to saints and wear a mupatti, which is mask. But Murti Pujaks will not wear a mupatti and will go to the Tirthankars. So here there is masks. Now you will ask me, what is the difference between this Terapanthi and this Terapanthi? Can anybody tell me what is the difference between them? What is the difference between this Terapanthi and that Terapanthi? Basically, clothes. There's one Terapanthi who wear masks and clothes. There's one Terapanthi who does not wear mask or clothes. That is the basic point. So you can make it in like a Venn diagram also. For example, you have masks. Don't ask me what is masks, because it doesn't mean either. It means that you are born today, that you have no idea what is COVID-19. Clothes and idols. So we have Murti Pujaks here. We have mask and clothes. One second, sorry. Murti Pujak, only Murtis, and they wear clothes, so we have to put it here. Basically, we don't need 3, but we need 4. Once again, we need 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have masks, saints, idols, clothes. This is the basic idea. Now here, when we talk about idols and clothes, you have Murti Pujaks. Thereafter, you have saints and clothes. So this would be Sthanakva. No, this would not be that. This one would be the intersection of all three. This is where mask is also there, saint is also there, and clothes is also there. This is Terapanthi and this Thanakvasi. Murti Pujaks are only idols and clothes. And you have Digambar, totally outside this whole concept, which is because no clothes. And we have one Therapanthi who also does not wear clothes. So it comes here. This is Therapanthi of Digambar. If this makes sense, sure. If not, you can just remember it in a different way altogether. Does it make sense? Yes? If you can understand in Venn diagrams itself. And just for simplification, for anybody who did not understand it, Terapanthi can be 2 types, Digambar and Shwetambar. And here there are monks, that masks. And thereafter you have Sthanakvasi, which is monk plus mask. And Murti Pujak, which is Tirthankar and no mask. Now clear if you find that Venn diagram difficult. Right? Okay. Done? Can we move on? Come on. Yes. Now, again, Jains are quite considerate to UPSC aspirants, wherein They don't have a lot of councils. One is the first, and the second one is the simple two Jain Buddhist councils. One is in Patliputra and a person called Stulbahu, and here 22 books were written, which are called Angs. And the second one happened in Valabhi by the Shwetambars in Gujarat, and 12 books were already there. So 12 sub books were written. Sub books were written. That's it. Nothing big, nothing small. And when we'll do art and culture, literature part, I will discuss with you Buddhist and Jain literature. Because if I start to do Buddhist and Jain literature here, you'll most probably faint. So I pick that up and do it separately. All is going on with, yes, parallelity to Buddhist timeline. Everything is parallel to Buddhist timeline. Jains, Buddhist, Vedic, Brahmanism, all three existed together in the 6th century BC. That is a period of what we call as the second urbanization. Now, when we talk about spread of Jainism, when Mahavira was alive himself, he made sure that he had disciples who could take it forward. 12 and 12. 2. I did not first 22 or 12. You said 22. What 22? 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Now, Mahavira, when he was alive himself, he had 11 disciples. Disciples wherein the different schools he had already decided about them. Now, Arya Sudharma was one of these, what we call Ganadharas, who was the only one who was able to survive by the time Mahavira died. So he is called the first Thera, meaning the one who succeeds what we call as Mahavira is called the Thera. And there was the one Thera who was left, who is Arya Sudharma. Thereafter, Arya Sudharma appointed two more Theras, which is the Sambhavata Vijay and Bhadrabahu. There are only 2 to 3 very celebrated kings who became Jain. One is Udayan, who's the successor of Ajatashatru, and Chandragupta Maurya, who is considered the founder of the Mauryan dynasty, which we have to discuss in the next 5 minutes itself. And Mathura and Ujjain till today are considered two very important areas for Jainism. Now, we have covered module number 3 properly. Now, this is the heavy 3 modules. We started at prehistory. We covered Indus Valley civilization. We covered Vedic age. And after Vedic age, we had a standalone topic on called Buddhism and Jainism. Now, Buddhism, Jainism is the only standalone, Ajivikism with it, the only standalone topic which is religious history. And we come back to module number 4, or rather module number 4, and we now go into 3 modules which are basically all political history, which is basically the purpose of ancient India. We do Maurya, then we do post-Maurya, and then we do Gupta. These are the 3 main modules which are left. Mauryas being the last heaviest because there are terms here and there are books here. The most questions are made out of post-Maurya because there are not 1 but 6 to 7 different dynasties here, which a lot of students don't know. And thereafter, Gupta and Vakataka is again a standalone topic. But by this point of time, things will become quite interesting. From this point, we will be discussing what we call as caste formation. Here we'll be discussing the concept of Puranic Hinduism. And as soon as I go into post-Gupta, we will be entering into early medieval or medieval in that sense. So by next week, we'll be doing medieval. And these are the only 3 which are left. Now, when we talk about Mauryan dynasty here itself, we have 3 basic things which we have to cover here. One is called Alexander's invasion. Then you need to know the sources of Mauryan period. Thereafter, you also need to know the political history, which is very easy, 3 rulers. Then the big topic is Ashokan Dhamma, and last is administration. Once we are done with this, once Maurya is completed, in post Maurya, I'll go to South India and bring the story till Maurya, megalithic, Sangam, and then we'll take Indo-Greek, Shaka, Kushana, this, that together. So don't worry, where is megalithic? I know where is megalithic, and megalithic I will do with you. Right now, I'm concentrating on North India. If you can see, from IVC to Vedic to Buddhism, Jainism, I'm right now just in the northern sector. Southern sector, something else exists, which is called megalithic, which I will discuss with you once we have reached a certain point. Once we reach 184 BCE, which is the decline of the Mauryas, then I will go back and bring the timeline together. Because if I do both together, it will become too heavy. So, we have finally finished module number 3, Buddhism, Jainism module. You want to do a thesis, become a Buddhist and Jain monk yourself. It is totally your call. I'm not going to discourage you from doing that, but for the purpose of the examination, what we've done is more or less enough to do any type of question. Questions I will show you once we've covered this module, because then I can show questions where there are intersectionalities, which I will do with you specifically. Thereafter, the modules are now a little bit more political and a little bit more theoretical. Can we now start module number 4? 3 modules, main 3 modules done. Yoga and all these 6 schools of philosophy, art and culture. We'll discuss that. Ekta, firstly, stop typing in all caps. It doesn't do anything. It makes it harder to read also. So you make it in, sir, means Thanakvasi worship their monks, which means that who are alive. Murti Pujaks worship who are not. Yes. But you can stop typing in all caps. Okay. Now, when we talk Digambar, Therapanthi were monks, no, they were nothing. Okay. Indo-Greeks, yes, we will do Indo-Greeks also. Very good. Module number 4, there are 3 chapters in R.S. Sharma and 1 chapter in the NCERT. This is a very interesting module because mostly everybody knows about Ashoka. So people have a little bit of idea. But first, let's talk about Alexander. Now, if you remember, maybe you don't remember, I left you at Magad. Political history, Magad. Magad saw trade, saw 3 religions rising, saw Buddha and Mahavira live, and it also saw punch-marked coins. In that sense, we have 3 to 4 major developments during the Magad period, and what Ananya, Upinder Singh is an optional level book. This discussion has nothing to do with optional. Optional in ancient India is very different and depth is much greater. So I cannot tell you Upinder Singh chapters. There's an optional level book. Now Magad, and whatever is relevant from that book, I'm already doing it. What was the last dynasty known? What was the last dynasty? Nanda. Very good. And who is the last ruler of this Nanda dynasty? Very good. Dhanananda. Now, this name which you remember, it will help you in the next story which I am discussing with you. Now, in order to understand the Mauryan dynasty, you have to understand the story. And that story is that Mauryas had a lot of sources which were Greek, which is, for example, Megasthenes, Strabo, Arrian, Pliny, multiple texts which were basically Greek. And now we need to know why is that there were Greek sources about the Mauryas, and what is the context for that, and how is that some Greek dynasty was hovering around the Indian subcontinent at this point of time. Where does that connection come from? Where does that connection come from? And for that, we have to go a little bit outwards into the world and look at Central Asia. Now, I'm going to make you imagine something. First, we'll do it in a imaginary map form. Then I'll give you a flow chart. And that should be enough to answer any question in the examination with regards to Alexander, or what is called the Macedonian invasion. So you just have to first listen to me, imagine with me, and thereafter I'll give you a flow chart with all the details. Now the concept is very simple. There's a river here. Generally considered very important lifeline of Pakistan, which is the Indus River. Now the Indus River has a lot of tributaries. One is Jhelum, Chenab, two very important. But one river, which is Beas. If you cross Beas, you basically enter into India properly. If you enter Beas, you basically enter India properly. Till Jhelum, Chenab, Satluj, or these are not the right locations, I'm just putting them on the map itself. From Ravi to Satluj to Jhelum, Chenab, Beas. Beas is the innermost. Now, to the east of the Indus River, you have the Dhanananda Nanda dynasty, which is basically Magad. But we have not discussed what was happening beyond the Indus River. To the west of this river, there used to be a very big dynasty called the Achaemenid Empire. In popular imagination, it is remembered as Persian Empire. And from the Achaemenid dynasty itself, from the Indus till modern day Greece and a place called Macedonia, which is in Greece today, this whole sector was the Achaemenid Empire. What is the range of Magad? Nobody knows. Reach is still Magad. Reach is still Indus. There are no defined boundaries. Starts from the eastern sector, goes till the western sector. Now, this color which you see, the brown color which you see, from this point in this map till modern day Macedonia, everything was part of the Achaemenid Empire. They used to rule from Iran, and it's a proper Persian Empire coming from the Iranian sector. Now, first things first, I don't care about them. They are just a footnote in my story, and I really don't want to share any information which is unnecessary. So for your understanding, there's something called the Achaemenid Empire, which is there, which is ruling from the Indus River till the Greek sector, which is Macedonia. Anybody has any issue in understanding what is written on this slide? Who is the ruler? What is the ruler? What is empire? All these questions are immaterial. I have no purpose of telling you that also. Okay, very good. Now, Macedonia at this point of time is ruled by a person called Philip. The ruler is Philip, and he has been defeated by the Achaemenid Empire. Now, in 335 BCE, the configuration remains the same here. The configuration remains the same here. Which is Beas, Chenab, Jhelum, Satluj, Ravi, Indus. The story remains here the same, Magad. But what happens is that in Macedonia, the son of Philip, name Alexander the Third, also known as Sikandar in India, Alexander will rise. And Alexander, I know Karaku, the river order is completely wrong. Zero out of 100 in geography. No issues. History teacher. Okay. Now, either you don't listen to me or you get something out of it. I told you that the order is random. Now, Alexander will rise in the Macedonian sector. And thereafter, he will start to now fight against the Achaemenid rule. And the ruler here is called Darius, who is the ruler of Achaemenid Empire. Now, he will now start to expand into the areas which used to be previously the Achaemenid dynasty, and this map shows that route which he took. For example, he started from modern day Macedonia, Battle of Issus, Battle of Gaugamela, and Battle of Susa and Persepolis are generally considered very important. But Alexander basically is expanding at a very quick rate, very quick rate, and he by 327 BCE has reached the Indus. Whatever happens in between is of no purpose to me because we are doing Indian history, not Central Asian history. The simple point is Alexander will rise and start to defeat the Darius I empire, and he will reach till the Indus by 327 BC. Anybody has any issue in understanding this? He rises from Macedonia. He's the son of Philip. Alexander fights back and reaches till the Indus. Because from here it becomes quite interesting. No issue. Perfect. Now, Darius is the ruler of the Achaemenid rule. Now, between 327 and 326 BCE, something very interesting is going to happen. Who reaches Alexander? Now I'll zoom into this sector a little bit. And we are more interested about through two areas. The region between Jhelum and Chenab, and thereafter the Beas River. And you have Takshila here, Takshila sector. And Alexander has reached here. Now, Alexander has been expanding very quickly. And he has a territorial ambition that he wants to enter into India and conquer it. Now, in order to do that, there are two rulers who Alexander has to face. One is called Ambhi and the other one is called Porus. We don't know what is the exact location of Porus's empire, just we know that he is between Jhelum and Chenab. And we also don't know what is the exact location of Ambhi. We just know that he is in Takshila sector. Now, as soon as Alexander reaches Ambhi, Ambhi gives no resistance. Ambhi gives no resistance, and Alexander is able to take Ambhi's sector. Ambhi really basically gives up. He gives no resistance whatsoever. No resistance. Rather, he will become a part of Alexander's empire. Now, Porus or Puru, called in different texts different things, he will not be not the same. And when it came to crossing the Jhelum and Chenab, Porus gives very strong and heavy resistance. Very strong and heavy resistance. And it takes Alexander 3 months to defeat Porus. Porus will be defeated in what is called as the Battle of Hedepetus. Hedepetus was the name given by the Greeks to the Jhelum river itself. He will get defeated. And now, very decisively, Alexander will reach the Beas. Alexander has reached here. Now, Alexander was very happy and very impressed by the resistance provided by Porus. So he does not kill Porus, but rather restores Porus back his dynasty and his area, saying that you should be a part of the Alexander's empire. So in 326, he will basically be sitting at the Beas river, having crossed the Jhelum river. Now, very decisively, Alexander knows that the next person he faces is Dhanananda and the Magad Empire. And he knew about Dhanananda's army, he knew about Dhanananda's might, and he knew about Magad's very strong elephant and what we call as the weapons division of Magad was known everywhere. Now, Alexander says, okay, it took us 3 months to kill Porus, to defeat Porus. Let us cross. But very fortunately and very interestingly, as soon as Alexander decides to cross the river Beas, his army rebels. His army rebels, saying that we do not want to fight. See, they had been fighting between 335 to 327 BC, and the empire was very big. And basically, his troops will mutiny. They said that we have been fighting for a very long time. We don't want to cross the Beas, and now defeating Dhananda may take a year. If defeating Porus took 3 months, we are in no mood to fight further. And very decisively, Alexander chooses to go back. Alexander chooses to go back. Alexander rather decides to go back. Now this is a very important moment because Alexander crossing the Bias River could have meant anything. We could have been speaking a different language. We could not have been speaking a different language. Dhanananda was strong, but not as strong as Alexander. And Alexander had defeated much bigger armies than Dhanananda. It is the fatigue of his army that they did not want to enter India generally. Now the point is that nobody knows what would have been the impact of that. But either way, the Indian subcontinent was quite fortunate for Alexander not to enter. Now, this is fine. This story is fine. I'll give you a flowchart also. I have to now just create the context in which Chandragupta Maurya will rise, which is important. Are we clear about this? Act 3. Yes? Okay. Now Indus. Dhanananda. Yes, the soldiers were homesick. Dhanananda is here. Magad. Now, when Alexander went back, whilst he was going back, he gave this sector to his governor. And the name of that governor is Seleucus Nicator I. He is Seleucus Nicator I. Seleucus Nicator I. Now, two things will happen simultaneously. One thing, which is Alexander will die. It is believed that he died in Egypt because of poisoning. But as soon as Alexander dies, Seleucus Nicator I gives up this position of governor and he starts to expand into Alexander's empire. And what he is able to establish, is called the Seleucid Empire. It's called the Seleucid Empire. Exact location, I'll show you. The Seleucid Empire is exactly where Alexander was. It is expanding at the expense of Alexander's empire. On exactly where Alexander is, he's taking the advantage of Alexander not being there. So the Seleucid Empire has risen here. At the same point of time, when Seleucid Empire is rising, Dhanananda will be killed by a general of his army named Chandragupta Maurya. And he had been given help with the help of Kautilya or Chanakya. Different names, Vishnugupta, multiple names. The fact is that the Seleucid Empire and the Mauryan dynasty dynasty rise or rose at the same point of the time. They rise at the same time exactly. And now the question was, who will have control over this sector, which is Mauryas under Chandragupta Maurya, and here you have Seleucid Empire. And they are fighting for this sector. Who will have control over the Indus and beyond? And basically here Seleucus Nicator 1 versus Chandragupta was on. But both the rulers realize something, which is that it makes no sense to fight over this sector when the Seleucid Empire can go this way and the Chandragupta Mauryan Empire can go this way. And what happens is that Seleucus Nicator 1 marries his daughter Helena to Chandragupta Maurya, and this area becomes Mauryan territory. And basically now India's northwestern sector is perfect. In the northwestern sector, you have the Seleucid Empire, and in the heartland of India, you have the Mauryan Empire. And very simply, now Greek scholars and ambassadors come to Mauryan Empire, and the first one such was Megasthenes, then Strabo, then Justin, then Arrian, and then Pliny. All these are Greek travelers into India, and they are the ones who tell us about both the Mauryan Empire and the Seleucid Empire. This is why we have Greek sources for Mauryan Empire itself. So by this discussion, I've done two things. Told you the Alexander story, and second, I told you why there would be people like Megasthenes talking about the Mauryan Empire, and why is that Chandragupta Maurya had one more name, which is Sandrakotas and Androkotas, and why is that Bindusara had a different name, which is called Amitroshades. Basically, I've tried to explain to you what is the basic situation in the world at this point of time, and how it becomes stable, and what allows the Mauryan Empire to basically become so big, and it has no conflict in the northwestern sector itself. What this line representing now is basically the Indus is now flowing within it. This line is the border between these two. Who married whom? Helena married Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya is now the son-in-law of Seleucus Nicator I. Seleucid Empire was taken over Mauryan Empire after marriage? No. Only this sector. This is the disputed sector. This much is taken by Mauryans. Mauryans are happy to sit here, and the Seleucid Empire goes this way towards where they came from, and the Mauryans start to go in that direction. Mauryans go to start to this direction. If this makes sense, I'll read the story out, then I'll give you a flow chart, and then we can go further. Another name in what context, I will tell you that when it will come to it. Okay. Now, I'll read the story out, then I'll give you the flow chart. Now, Alexander III was the son of Philip, the ruler of Macedonia. He succeeded his father by 336-335 BC, and the Greeks were now trying to push the Persians out of this area. The rivalry will now become very big under Alexander, and Alexander will now start to defeat no one else but the ruler Darius of the Persian rule or the Achaemenid rule. He will beat him at the Battle of Issus and take Gaza Strip, Egypt, Babylonia, Susa, and Persepolis. And in pursuit of doing that, by 327, Alexander reached the northwestern sector of India and now was looking towards the Indus River with multiple independent kingdoms there. Among there were only two major rulers. One, the ruler of Takshila, Ambhi, and the other one, Puru or Porus, who ruled between the Jhelum and the Chenab. These two rulers were the only resistance Alexander could see before he could enter through the Khyber Pass itself. And when it came to resistance, before meeting Porus, Alexander marched into a Takshila, and Ambi readily accepted Alexander's overlordship, giving nothing. On the other hand, Porus gave very strong resistance, though he will be defeated at this what is called as the Battle of Hedipus. The fact was that Alexander was impressed by the bravery of Porus. He made friendship with Porus in an unknown country. We don't know. We just know that it is this basic sector here. He made and Alexander marched through the streams of the Indus as far as its delta. There he stopped his Indian invasion when it came to his soldiers refusing to go any further. Basically, they did not want to cross this sector itself because they knew that they would have to then fight Dhanananda, which would have been very big. Now, Alexander will invade and appoint Seleucus Nicator I as the ruler of as the governor of this sector, and Seleucid Empire will be created by Seleucus Nicator I in 312 BCE once Alexander will die, and they will have a basic conflict over this area, and rather they will sort it out by Seleucus Nicator I marrying his daughter to Chandragupta Maurya generally. So very simply, Seleucus Nicator I in that sense was very, very smart, and Chandragupta Maurya was smart, realizing there was no point fighting for one sector rather than going in the opposite direction and expanding. Now, this story can be just remembered like this basically, which is a small flowchart, which is simple, straightforward. You have Alexander rose during the period of Darius I in the Achaemenid Empire. Now, Alexander defeated Darius at Battle of Issus, etc. He reached Indus River by 327 BCE. He was now confronted by two rulers. Ambhi did not give any resistance, gave up on Takshila. Porus fought bravely, defeated eventually by Alexander, ruler between Chenab and Jhelum. Defeated eventually by Alexander, and Alexander restores Horus and now wants to cross the Indus. His army mutinied or rebelled, goes back and appoints Seleucus Nicator I as governor. After Alexander's death, Seleucid Empire is formed. Is carved out. Chandragupta Maurya kills Dhanananda and establishes Mauryan Empire. Matrimonial alliance. Helena marries Chandragupta. This is basically the story. Make sense? Right? So what we'll do is that we'll take a 5-minute breather here, not a 10-minute or 15-minute. I'll give you one more later. We take a 5-minute breather here, and then we go forward. We go forward with Mauryan Empire when we come back. I leave you here. We come back at 6:16. We come back at 6:21, and we'll take the story forward. Right? Okay. Welcome back. Okay. No, Roman Empire had declined quite previously. Previously used to be part of Roman. Alexander's army rebelled. Alexander died of poisoning in Egypt. No, Tina. Ambi is the ruler of Takshila. Again, while writing answers, Jhansi Rani, there is no mains question from this. Okay, now the next project or the next thing which we have to know about Mauryas is a little bit painful. Have to go through it. Can't help it. Are the sources. What do you want to do? Can highlight keywords by. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Will waste your time. Chanakya, Vishnugupta, Kautilya, very known Brahmin, very big scholar who helped Chandragupta Maurya capture power. Okay. Now, when we talk about sources, there are two types of sources which I told you. Why Alexander's army rebelled? Because it has been fighting for now close to 8 years. And Alexander died because of basic diarrhea, and he poisoned himself in the way of basically getting the treatment for that. I really don't care. Alexander is nobody to me. But yeah, that is the story. Okay. Now, that's a separate history altogether. If you actually go into Alexander's history, separate history altogether. Now, indigenous and foreign sources are there. Now you know why there are foreign sources. So the most important sources which UPSC will never ask directly straightforward is the Arthashastra. The Arthashastra is considered the most important book when it comes to political theory, and it was written by Kautilya or Chandragupta or Chanakya. Chanakya, Kautilya, Vishnugupta, all three names are used for him. And he wrote the Arthashastra as a text which tells about how the Mauryan Empire actually was ruled and what was the basic, what we call as administrative setup. Then, see, the period between uh, the empire was there. The Mauryan Empire basic period is considered to be 324, 321 to 184 BCE. Now you'll realize something, that these texts were written much later, close to 700 years later. But for example, the Mudraksha by Vishaka Datta talked about Chandragupta Maurya and how he defeated the Nandas. Some text which is written 500 years later talks about the Mauryan Empire. What does it indicate? What does it indicate? It indicates that the Mauryans were so powerful and were so known that even 900, 1000 years down the line, people are talking about them. And that is why it becomes even more interesting to know why is that the Mauryans were known like this. So you have to remember Mudraksha, Vishakadatta, standard thing, mud visa. You can remember it like this, but have to learn these texts because very important. Then you have a very important text for Harshvardhan called the Harsh Charita by Bana, and this talks about how Mauryan Empire declined. Then you have the father of Indian history, Raj Tarangini by Kalhan. This is the book. This is the author. Raj Tarangini by Kalhan. Kalhan wrote the history of Kashmir and how Ashoka developed the Srinagar sector. Then you have the Puranas, which are Hindu texts. Then you also have the Jatakas, which are Buddhist texts. which talk about the basic conditions during the Mauryan period. Not have to remember this, you have to remember this for sure. 1, 2, and 3. And there you have Hemchandra's Pratishta Pravan, which is a Jain poet talking about how Chandragupta Maurya converted to Jainism and did Salekhana. This also becomes important. Now, the way you can remember is very simply Mud Visa, then you have Harban, then you have Raj Kal. If you'll make these small types of what we call as acronyms, it will help you generally. This area has a lot of text and a lot of terms. The last major area, which is like this, because the Arthashastra gives us a lot of terminologies, so you have to remember it for the examination. Now comes the foreign sources, which are also quite a lot, which is the 4 Greek sources. Indica by Megasthenes talks about the Mauryan administration like Kautilya. Then you have Strabo, Justin Arayan. Have to remember this S-Jap, MS-Jap, which is Megasthenes, Strabo, Justin Arayan, Pliny. And Strabo talked about how Helena was married. Justin talks about how Sandrakotas. Sandrakotas is the name of Chandragupta Maurya. In Greek text, he's called as Sandrakotas. What type of questions can be made from this area? Match the following. Has come this year itself, 2023. I will tell you, I'll show you that question. But the problem is 2 options are from this period, 2 options are from the Gupta period. So the questions are straightforward. They can give you match the following, this pair, that pair. Is the pair correctly matched or not? Standard questions can come from this area. Then you have Arayan. Arayan talks about Nanda's army when the Greeks had reached there. And Pliny talks about how the Mauryas had a very big army. Now, don't go by the numbers too much. 6 lakh infantry is a very big army, but don't go by these numbers, inflated numbers. Then we also have 3 foreign travelers from China. Fahian, Hunsang, Itzing. FHI, remember this. Fahian, Hunsang, and Itzing, all Buddhists, not Singh, Itzing, came to India and went to one of the more important universities. And for example, Itzing was in Nalanda. Previously, Huansang just wanted to roam around in India generally, and Fahian also came. All three refer to the Mauryas, specifically Fahian and Hunsang. Hunsang talks about how Ashoka got influenced by a small boy monk, which is Upagupta, who made him convert towards Buddhism. We also have Selenes, which is Sri Lankan and Tibetan sources, which shows you how Ashoka had expanded Buddhism so much that there were multiple texts coming from multiple areas. The Buddhist source, the Maha, the Deepa, and the Kula, all talk about how Ashoka sent his children Mahendra and Sangamitra to Sri Lanka. And the Divyadana talks about how Ashoka sent different ambassadors to Tibetan sector to spread Buddhism. All of these texts remain relevant for you. If this makes you a little bit nervous, have to learn one each day. Don't have to do it in one go. But this is an area, this and Guptas are an area where the sources matter. A very standard question comes in. You don't have to worry about that generally. So before we go into polity, what I've done with you is very simple, straightforward thing, which is I've discussed with you Alexander, I've discussed with you the sources of Mauryas, and I've just discussed with you how does Chandragupta Maurya establish the Mauryan Empire. Are we clear about these things? 3 things, straightforward 3 things. Yes? Okay. Now. Pani's Ashtadhyayi, written later, will not talk about Mauryas too much, but the post-Mauryan period. Okay, now one thing is very clear. I'll give you a break, don't worry, next 10 minutes. Let me cover a certain portion. See, now there are 2 things which you need to know. UPSC mostly doesn't care about political history, which is who fought whom, this, that. And the pattern also shows that they're either asking conceptual questions or they're asking questions which are mostly factual but not in a political sense. So in no way or form I am going to tell you every battle which Chandragupta Maurya fought, every battle which Bindusara fought, every battle which Ashoka fought. Saying in that context that we have to just know their names and what are the major things which happened during the Mauryan period and why is Maurya known for Mauryas. Why am I saying this to you? Because when you read R.S. Sharma, when you read any random book, they start to give a lot of data. He fought this, he did this matrimonial alliance. PCS level examination, sure. Net for sure. But UPSC would rather ask you a much harder question related to Dhamma than to ask you something very straightforward related to political. So, very simply, yes, we are still in North India. Very simply, I do not want to give you any unnecessary data. Because if I become like R.S. Sharma, then what's the point? So your idea has to be very clear. Whatever I have given you in this PPT and whatever I'm going to discuss with you about them is more than enough to answer any political question if it comes. Other than that, you are really, really into Chandragupta Maurya. You want to really go and do a thesis on Bindusara. Sure. Totally your call. Totally your call. And I'll be happy to suggest you books also. But my discussion here is not going to go into that section. Are we clear about this? This is not just for this period. This is for all periods. I will not go into, for example, I don't do, for example, Akbar's every campaign I don't do because that's not important for you. We need to know where to draw the line. And I'm drawing the line here. Whatever we do in class is more than enough. And that is perfect. And don't watch serials for history. Bimbisara, Bindusara, I don't know, Chandra Nandin, whatever it is. Don't do that. All of that is all made up crap mostly. So don't have to do it. Okay. So please, to stop watching movies for history, enough books are there for that. Now, when we talk about political, what is more important then? Administration, Dhamma, ideas of Dhamma. What was the concept of Dhamma? Dhamma's principle. You will see whatever is important, I will do it with you. Panipat is medieval. Okay. No, 2016 ka ho ya 2023 ka ho, doesn't matter. It will be crap still. Okay. Now, in political, there are all the rulers. The first thing is, I don't want you to do this. These don't matter to me generally. What matters to me is that you remember the 3 to 4 major rulers. Chandragupta Maurya, everybody remembers. And Bindusara. And yes, Sania, Bindusara and Bimbisara are different. First thing I told you about Bimbi was that he's a Haranka ruler, he's a Magad ruler. This is Bindusara and that is Bimbisara. Then you have to remember Ashoka. And for the sake of art and culture, also remember Dasharath. And thereafter, I don't care about Sampriti and these people. I just care about Brihadrat. Why do I care about Brihadrat? Because always first and last ruler is important. Because he will be killed by a person called Pushyamitra Shunga to basically launch the next dynasty. Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, Ashoka, Dasharath, everybody can remember. Dasharath because of Ramayan, Ashoka everybody knows, Bindusara, okay, Chandragupta Maurya everybody knows. Brihadrat is the only one which you have to remember. Now, I will say one thing to you, which is very simple, straightforward. There will be a certain feeling which will come inside you right now, which is why? Why should I learn it? Or there is too much facts, sir. My head is going around. The world is turning around. Dunya ghum rahi. I cannot manage it. Right now, simple point with regards to that is, firstly, you're not an American or an Englishman that words like Dasharath and Brihadrat become too hard for you. Sir, I can't learn Brihadrat. So Brihadrat, I'm not able to understand. Don't do that. So don't think that these are words which are totally alien to you. First thing. Second thing is, if you're ready to learn articles, if you're ready to learn forests, if you're ready to learn rivers, if you're ready to learn national parks, world wildlife sanctuaries, if you're ready to learn different articles, COM, these, that, then you can learn this also. So don't close your mind here. You have to do it as part of your preparation. And I'm trying to minimize it as much as possible. Minimize it as much as possible. Every subject has ratification. Don't give me this myth and this jhasa that I have not learned anything anywhere, only history I have to learn. Don't give me this. So never. Because I also know what the UPSC syllabus is and how much you need to learn in, for example, international relations, or you have to learn in polity, or in economy, or in geography, or in any other subject. So if you're ready to learn there, you should be ready to learn here also. So I am not going to, very simply, I am trying to minimize it as much as possible. Basic mistakes is you start to learn years. I'm not trying to do that. I'm basically giving you the least possible facts to do ancient India. Are we clear? Yes? Only these 5 to remember? Yes. If you are extremely enthusiastic, have nothing to do in life, learn the others also. Okay. Now, one of you asked me what is the territorial expanse or how big is the Mauryan Empire. And the concept is very simple. The Magadh area under Bindusara started in this small area. By the time we talk about Dhanananda, Dhanananda had a big empire. Bimbi, yes, Bimbi. Said something, wrote something else. This is under Bimbisara. Now, Dhanananda, the empire is much bigger. Both are not the same. Bindu, Bimbi. This is Bindu. This is Bimbi. I said Bimbi, wrote Bindu. Now, Dhanananda. Now, by the time Chandragupta Maurya captures power, he is able to take most of this sector. But the largest the empire was under Ashoka. The Mauryans are known to be the only centralized pan-Indian empire of the subcontinent. Meaning, except for this sector, which was basically under the Sangam polities, which I will discuss with you tomorrow, wherein you have the Cheras, the Cholas, but the Cheras are not called Cheras here, but they're rather called Kerala Putras, the Pandyas, and the Cholas. Other than that, not Raja Raja. This is early Chola. Other than that, pan-Indian means whole of India. Why am I saying this to you? Because never ever, neither the British were able to do what the Mauryans were able to do. Maurya, Gupta, Samudragupta, whatever Gupta you want to talk about Chola, talk about talk about, for example, Delhi Sultanate, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Alauddin Khilji, talk about Akbar, talk about any of the Mughal rulers. Even British India was not this big. Even British India was not this big. Whole of the subcontinent together was only held by the Mauryans. And the reason for that I will tell you is because in the post-Mauryan period, something happens. A tendency develops, which basically becomes the genesis of political fragmentation in India. But the point here is that the Nandas had already, or the Magadhan rule had already consolidated North India. Chandragupta Maurya added the whole of northwestern, and Ashoka took it to the highest point. Highest point was under Ashoka. Magad and Maurya are different, obviously, because Dhanananda is killed and Chandragupta Maurya is established. So are we clear about this? Because if we are clear, I'll take a break here. Then we come back and then discuss the rather interesting things, which is political history, Ashokan Dhamma, and administration. Yes? Okay, clear. At peak during Ashoka, yes. Can we read here about Chanakya? Chanakya is of no purpose to me. I will discuss his administration, sure. Saptang, I'll discuss all of that with you. Tirthas and all we'll discuss. Okay, perfect. So we come back at 7. Sure, why not? And we'll take the story forward. Welcome back. Okay. Now, what we have to cover is the basic political history of these people. First being Chandragupta Maurya. We already know that Chandragupta Maurya is the one who basically defeated Dhanananda to establish the empire. But in the exam, two things can be asked. That who does Sandrakotas and Andrakotas refer to? And basically, these are the Greek names of Chandragupta Maurya. So in the Greek text, he's not called Chandragupta Maurya, he's called Sandrakotas or Andrakotas. He is the one who will start in the Punjab sector and expand into the Nanda Empire itself. And multiple texts have talked about how he was the one who rose against the Nandas and captured power. But a very important thing which Chandragupta Maurya did, which becomes a historical connection between multiple rulers, is a lake which he made in Gujarat, which is called the Sudarshan Lake. The Sudarshan Lake, which is in Junagadh, basically has an inscription. And on that inscription, it says that Chandragupta Maurya is the one who constructed that lake. Now, the fact is that this lake is like a connection between multiple dynasties. Why? Because Chandragupta Maurya constructed it. Later, Ashoka will repair it. Then Rudradaman, who's a Shaka ruler, he will repair it. Then even the Guptas repair it after multiple damages because of flooding. So that one inscription, the Junagadh inscription, shows to us a historical chronology of these rulers from the Mauryan to the Gupta period itself. So in the exam, first thing, Andrakotas, thereafter Sudarshan Lake. Three things you have to remember about him with regards to also marrying Helena, which we already know. Then comes his successor Bindusara. Now Bindusara's name under Greek text was Amitroshets. This is the name which the Greek texts give him, and it is basically based on the title which he got, which is Amitraghata. He used to call himself as the slayer of all his enemies, so they modified it to create it Amitroshets. Now Bindusara was an Ajivik. We know that Chandragupta Maurya became a Jain because of Jain text itself. He is an Ajivik, remained an Ajivik all his life, and his relations with lot of different areas of the world was very good. Wherein Antiochus, who's the successor of Seleucus Nicator, one had a ambassador under him, which came and sat in his court. And you also have Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who's the ruler of Egypt, who had a ambassador under him, which is Dionysus. Dionysus and Demicus, two people used to sit in his court, and both were ambassadors of two very important rulers, one the Seleucid Empire, the other the Egyptian Empire. And generally, Bindusara is known to the one who consolidated the empire. Now, a very important suggestion to all of you again. Why did India have their ambassadors in others? Which is to show allies, to show international relations, diplomatic relationship. Now, a very important suggestion to you all again, because there would be some who would be thinking about this. Never learn this father, mother, brother. Because some of you are going to ask me, who is Bindusara to Chandragupta Maurya? And the point is that if you will start to do that, it will become into a seaside question. The father of the mother of the brother. Don't do that. Because lineage, when it comes to these relationships, are not straightforward. So if you learn that he is the grandfather, the son, no. Simple, straightforward point. Chandragupta Maurya succeeded by Bindusara. What is the blood relation? I don't care. Because blood relation as it is, no, UPSC will never ask. And more than that, they have multiple wives, they have multiple sons. You will not be able to even fathom that accordingly. So the issue is that there are multiple lineages and you cannot follow which wife gave which word to Bindusara. I have no intention of doing it. So you should also not look for these things in books. That is he the son of Helena's, or he is not Helena's, then who is the mother of Bindusara? I really don't care. And you should also not get into these messy areas, which is multiple wives, multiple issues. Now comes the most interesting and most important thing, which is a person called Ashoka. Now, you would have realized by this point of time, I'm not using a very well-known epithet for him, which is Ashoka the Great, like Alexander the Great, because that is something which I leave to you. For me, nobody is great, nobody is bad, nobody is wrong. Ashoka is Ashoka, Alexander is Alexander. So now comes Ashoka. Now Ashoka is the most well-known, and on the street, if you go and ask somebody, do you know history? He'll say no. But if you'll say, give me two rulers' name, he will say Ashoka Akbar. Because Ashoka, everybody knows. Everybody knows. And generally, because of that very bad movie by Shah Rukh Khan also, everybody knows generally Ashoka. Now Ashoka is, what is he known for? What is he known for? Either for two things, Dhamma or Kalinga. Which is that he is the one who captured Kalinga, which is Orissa, and he is also the one who turned towards Buddhism and Dhamma. Now, when we talk about Ashoka, now Ashoka is an Ajivik. And people talk about Ashokan Dhamma in multiple contexts. For example, Ashoka's Dhamma, firstly, you should understand, is not Buddhism properly. Iron Pillar is not by Ashoka. That is Chandragupta II Vikramaditya. Dhamma is not Buddhism. Dhamma is the Ashokan interpretation of Buddhism. Because none of the Dhamma philosophies ever actually intersected with Buddhism. There's no concept of Ashtang Marg and all. But the timing of Ashoka turning from an Ajivik to a Buddhist has been quite interesting, and it shows a historical coincidence which actually does not exist. Now, Ashoka is, as I told you, remembered for this change of heart, that he saw 1.5 lakh people dead, 1.5 lakh people wounded, 1 lakh people dead. The rivers of Kalinga were now in red color because of the blood which has come out. So Ashoka changed. And he then developed Dhamma. So Dhamma is mostly seen as a religious philosophy. But the fact of the matter is, Ashoka is much more smarter than what we actually think. See, it is believed that Ashoka's heart changed. Now you tell me one thing. It is believed that Ashoka killed either 9 or 99, doesn't matter. Either 9 or 99 of his brothers to become the ruler. So there his heart did not change. Then Ashoka expanded aggressively. Then his heart also did not change. Ashoka killed 1.5 lakh, 1 lakh people, 1.5 lakh wounded. First 10,000 he didn't change. First 50,000 he did not change. He changed when Kalinga was consolidated properly. Or Kalinga was captured properly. Now, if you understand Ajivikism, you will understand why he did not turn towards Buddhism previously. Because till he needed to expand, he was an Ajivik. Saying, it was in my fate to kill my 99 brothers. Likha hua tha. What could I do? Niyati. It was in my fate to kill 1 lakh people. So initially, he justified everything by saying, मैंने तो कुछ किया ही नहीं. I didn't do. वो तो मेरा हाथ हो गया. It happened by hands because it was in my fate to do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just following fate, which is killing my brothers. And when he needed to now consolidate the empire, he turned towards Buddhism, which is all men are my children. Let us not fight. Let us do good things. Morality is good thing. So this is not a religious philosophy. It is a politico-religious philosophy. Meaning that the timing at which Buddhism comes through, and that is also not Buddhism, if Ashoka really hated war, his grandfather was a Jain, he already had precedence for it. He would have easily become a Jain. If you hate violence, you become a Jain. Why Buddhism? He can become a Jain. But if he becomes a Jain, it's too hard to follow, and he would actually have to give up war. Everything, Jainism, Buddhism, everything exists. His grandfather, Chandragupta Maurya was a Jain. He had better precedence for being a Jain than actually becoming a Buddhist. Nobody in his family had been a Buddhist at this point of time. Everybody had been a Jain or a Ajivik. Now tell me one more thing. We know about Ashoka's change of heart through his pillars. These are the pillars which are very important. I'll show you. These are called the 3 sources which we know about. He was not a Jain, he was an Ajivik. Pay attention. Ashe. These are called major rock edicts, minor rock edicts. Minor means small, major means big. You will never have to write it in an answer because there's no mains question. Understand this point and you will actually sleep better tonight. Then you will have sandstone pillars. We know about Ashoka's change of heart quite a lot from these pillars or these edicts. This is either Pali or Prakrit in Brahmi script. but it was very strategic. In certain places, the language changed. I'll tell you that which language it is. What is there, sir? I'm telling you. Now, the major, minor, and sandstone edicts talk about Dhamma. Now, if you plot them on a map, you will find a pattern. These three were not in Pali Prakrit. They were in what is called as the Khoroshti script. Khoroshti script. Sometimes also the Greek script. In Khoroshti language, which is the language of Central Asia. Central Asia, this is the language which is there. And the inner ones are in Pali or Prakrit, mostly Prakrit, Brahmi. Iron Pillar, Sakshi, I told you, listen to me. Iron Pillar is Chandragupta to Vikramaditya, who was a Gupta ruler who made it in 500 BC, close to 700 years later. So the Mahrauli pillar which you talk about is not of Mauryas. If you listen to me, I've already told this to you half an hour before. Now, Prakrit Brahmi script. Now, if today I put a signboard in the middle of Rajiv Chowk or middle of India Gate in Chinese language, Mandarin, would you understand it? No. So the same reason Ashoka did not write Prakrit Brahmi in the northwestern sector. He wrote it in only the internal areas, not in the frontier areas. Now, if you link all the major rock edicts, these big red dots are major rock edicts. If you link all the major rock edicts, what do you get? What do you get? You get basically the borders of his empire. Basically, the borders of his empire. Now, there's a certain way Ashoka wrote the major rock edicts and he wrote the minor rock edicts. Now, Ashoka wrote the major rock edicts in a certain pattern. And first I'll tell you how he wrote it, then I'll give you an example, then we'll read it also. We'll read one of the edicts itself. Now, you tell me one thing. If I come to you and I say to you, why do I say it's a politico-religious philosophy? If I come to you, these are inscriptions, yes. If I come to you and say to you, my name is Abhishek Mishra. I was recently convicted for killing 5 people because they irritated me. However, now I've changed and now I only like peace. You like it? Or will you really trust me? What I said to you is called a passive aggressive messaging. It's called passive aggressive messaging. That, hi, I'm Abhishek. I just came out of jail for murdering 3 people. Now I've changed and now I'm going to be all peaceful. The whole line related to murdering could be omitted. But what I'm trying to say to you is, I'm the same person who killed up 3 people for irritating me, but now I've changed. Now I've changed. Now, Ashoka, that way, is a very good PR person, public relations person, because he knew that he had killed 1 or 1.5 lakh people. Now, either people would remember him for that death, or he would be remembered for the person who changed. So now, Ashoka always used to write like this, and you tell me, does it actually make sense the way he writes it? This is in the Kalinga itself. And I am going to now read this out to you, because Ashoka never wrote it for the people who lived at that point of time, because everybody who lived at that point of time knew that Ashoka killed 1 lakh people. This was for the future, for you and me to understand that Ashoka is not to be remembered for killing people. So what did he do? In all major rock edicts on the borders of the empire, this message used to be there, which is, 8 years after becoming king, I conquered Kalinga. About 1.5 lakh people were captured. More than a lakh of the people were killed. This filled me with sorrow. Why? And this is Ashoka speaking to you close to 3,000 years later. Whenever an independent land is conquered, lakhs of people die, and many are taken prisoner. Brahmins die, monks also die, people who are kind to their relatives die, friends, their slaves, their servants die, lose their loved ones. That is why I am sad, and I have decided to observe Dhamma and to teach others about it as well. I believe that winning people through Dhamma is much better than conquering them through force. I am inscribing this message for the future, so that my son and my grandson after me do not think of war. Instead, they think of how to spread Dhamma. Dhamma, as I told you, is a Prakrit word for Dharma. Now you tell me, is this part actually needed? He is giving reason for his change. He could have easily written, Kalinga war happened, I changed. Why did he give us the exact numbers of people killed? Why is he saying that I will kill people who will be good to their Brahmins also, to their monks also? If you read it properly, this is not a religious messaging. It's called political religious messaging. No, sir, he is feeling guilty to say sorry. So, bada sorry likh deta. Sorry for killing you. Sorry for killing your relatives. See, this is called passive aggressive messaging. Ironically, none of the inscriptions inside the empire talked about it. This was for a person entering the Indian subcontinent. Ki bhai, I am Ashoka. I have changed, but I am the same person who can kill 1.5 lakh people. So remember who I am. Don't think that I am very easy. And see, in Dhamma, there's a concept that just war should happen, righteous war should happen, not unjust war. Now, who decides what war is just and unjust? Who decides? He himself decides. So, he didn't. I'm telling you, if he really was sorry, Jain banja. You become a Jain. Because that way you would really do self-penance also. You would do self-penance also. So, the point is, Ashoka did not develop Dhamma as a religious philosophy. Dhamma was a consolidation strategy. Now that he needs people to not fight, he basically is talking about Dhamma. But till he needed the fight, he was an Ajivik. And the way it is written, see, Ashoka did not need to write this down. But Ashoka that way was very clear. He wanted to tell the later generations that he is a great king not because he conquered. I am not denying the fact that he changed. I'm not denying the fact that his heart did not change. But the timing and the way he did it does not really add up properly. If this was a mains related area, you could have to write it in a diplomatic way. It's not a mains related area, so you don't have to really worry about it, what you have to write down. You just have to understand. The basic point is Dhamma's philosophical understanding is not independent of how the wording is. The fact remains is that Ashoka was very clear, very clear that okay, you are saying like Tata Group, the Tata Group selling drugs in British time. So does every Tata ad come with this? We were the same company who used to sell drugs in the British period. Now we have changed, we make cars. Rahul, are you getting my point? It's about messaging. It's about messaging. If you go by Tata, then all BMW, Porsche, Mercedes, Bentley, all are Second World War companies. Mercedes was the main supplier of Hitler. So the simple point is he has changed, but Dhamma should be taken as a pinch of salt. Pinch of salt. He changed, but the larger interest consolidation prevent any discontent. Sure. It's about consolidation. Did his offspring follow Dharma? Yeah, Dhamma they followed. Not 2, 3, not after that. If he didn't change, then why did he suppose he stopped expansion? Because where will you go after this point? His expansion was complete. He already had East Coast, West Coast. He did not need the Kerala Putras, Pandyas or Cholas because he already had access to Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. It's about need. He was an Ajivik till he needed to conquer, yes, and then when he needed to consolidate, he turned towards Dharma or Dhamma. Okay, now that you know this, when we talk about Ashoka, Ashoka was, even before he became the ruler, he was the governor of the Ujjaini and the Takshila sector. He fought his brothers to basically win the throne itself. It is believed that he changed, and all Buddhist texts talk about it. And Ashoka was hated by his father. His father never wanted him to be ruler. Itna to, there's no text which is so detailed which will talk about hate and in motives. Made up, all made up. Major rock edicts are on the borders, yes. Now, Kalinga War happened in the 8th regnal year, which is 8th rule year, and that is the turning point for Ashoka because he was disturbed by that and turned towards Dhamma. And the time he stopped expanding, his empire had become this big. This is Ashoka's empire, going from Kandahar to the whole of northeast till the tip, till Brahmagiri. So very simply, Ashoka's Dhamma, in that sense, was propagated as an idea of brotherhood, major minor based on the size of the rock. Now, Ashoka's connection to, now please understand this point. Ashokan Dhamma is not, Ashoka never turned to full Buddhist. He never followed the Ashtanga Marg. He never talks about the Ashtanga Marg. He just interpreted Buddhism in the way he wanted to, and that is what is his Dhamma. His Dhamma is his own interpretation. Is his own interpretation of Buddhism. When I'll tell you the principles, you will realize it. Now we believe that Upagupta is the monk who turned Ashoka's heart towards it. He is the greatest of all Buddhists in that sense, if you want to call him that, because he spread it like anything. And multiple viharas, what are called dwelling place for monks. Sangha got a lot of money from Ashoka that way, and Buddhism was able to become so big because of that itself. Buddhism was not an arhat, at least an upasak, at least. He was an upasak, very good upasak. And that is what he's also called, the devout upasak, which is a follower of Buddhism. Now, he also organized the Buddhist council where Abhidhamma was written also. But now in the examination, they can ask you, what are the principles of Dhamma? Are we all on the same page with regards to this? Are we here? Sir, I think Ashoka's character was interpreted by himself to prevent wrong interpretation by others. Sure. So he succeeds in what he's want to do. Sure. Perfect. Are we all on the same page? Okay. Now, See, these are the locations of the major and minor rock edicts. Now, unfortunately, this is too big. Does he change? Sure. But the change happens with a strategic move also. So it can't be that he just randomly changed. Now, Ashoka's inscriptions and their location is something which is too much to remember for you generally. But what I want you to do is that you see, I've given you three maps. One is this map, this is Upinder Singh map. Then you have this map, which is NCRT, and this map, which is NCRT. Now, what I want you to do is that you just remember, yes, I can see that, Tarun. Remember the ones which are in the expanses and major ones, which is Mansehra, Shahbazgadi, Kandhar, Girnar, Sopara, Jaugada, Shishupalgarh, and Sanati. One of them came in the examination in 2021, which was Jaugada or Jodogada, Jobi, what you want to call it. This is the one which came in the exam. Other than that, and Kalsi, sorry, you can see these are very outwards in the area. Internal ones I don't want you to remember because it will be too much to remember that way. Mostly, whatever question can be asked, the location. The question was, it was written Jogada and it was written Maharashtra. It was an incorrectly matched area. It is in Kalinga itself. So you just remember the major ones. That should be enough to answer any question generally. Another type of question which can come, I'm telling you, which is principles. Now, we've already read what Ashoka wanted to say. Let's talk about his principles or Dhamma's principle. Now, some of you asked me about Brahmi being a very important, what we call as a script. See, Brahmi is the mother of all scripts in India because Brahmi by 1st century BCE will start to change, and it has two basic branches. One branch became the ones which by the time we come to 12th, 13th, many Mauryan, what we call as the Delhi Sultanate period, you had Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam, and Sinhalese developing. And Udiya, Bengali, Gujarati, Devanagari, and Punjabi also came out of it only. So, Dhamma is not a religion. Dhamma is just Ashoka's interpretation. And if you look at Ashokan, Brahmi, and Devanagari, there are a lot of things which basically start to also match. Brahmi, remember, is the mother of all scripts in India. All scripts in India. And he used Brahmi when it was inside. When it was outside, it was Khoroshti. When the Shahbazgadi, the Mansehra, and the Kandhar one, that used to have Khoroshti. Khoroshti script is very common in Central Asia at this point of time. Khoroshti with Khoroshti language was what he used in that sector. And this is again an example of how you have early Brahmi, Devanagari, Bengali, Malayalam, and Tamil. What is the basic way in which it evolved in that sense? Now, what you need to know is the principles and what are the edicts which give you the which principles. First is that these are the principles of Ashoka's Dhamma. Ashoka's Dhamma is not a separate religion. Ashoka's Dhamma is not a separate concept itself. It is just him reading the scripts and the ideas of Buddhism and then coming up with his own understanding itself. This is his own understanding. Now, the principle of Dhamma and edicts is as follows. You have first Ahimsa. Now, if he was really so moved by Ahimsa, look at how he interprets Ahimsa. His Ahimsa is, will not do it on animals and will reduce the animals. So his idea was vegetarianism. That if I have to not do violence, it's not about men and women, it's about vegetarianism. So it's towards animals. Thereafter, he says, good conduct, social responsibilities. Now you will see how a little bit of Buddhism will come out from Dhamma. You will see. It said it criticized ceremonies performed by people, especially women, on occasions of illness, marriage, birth, and setting forth journey. Which religion is known for doing this? Which religion is known for doing this? Yes, Gopal, yes. It is Vedic Brahmanism or early Hinduism. Vedic Brahmanism is known to do ritual and sacrifice on everything. So he's saying good conduct. Sure, very good, very good, very good. But he said this ceremony and all which you do is not something which you should do. So you see how a little bit of Buddhism is permeating through his Dhamma. It will come up further. You will see Dhamma was also about mutual respect and concord amongst people. This is his consolidation strategy. With Vedic Brahmanism there, with Buddhism there, with Jainism there, with Ajivikism there was a very good chance that people would fight. So he's talking about not different sects fighting with each other. So therefore he's trying to say that we should not fight with each other. So we are trying to consolidate. Further, he talked about how it is about renunciation of war, but righteous conquest can still happen. Further, he had a whole officer rank which used to go and tell everybody about Dhamma, and he also used to go around talking about Dhamma. The simple point is, he is like a modern day politician. Before the elections, they say, I will do this, I will do that, I will do this, I will do that, I will kato gholo lagal, I'll do everything. But once he becomes the ruler, he says, not, this is not possible. Everybody should be right. Everybody should be perfect. So when he had to expand, he was an Ajivik. When he had to win the election, he was an Ajivik. But once he had won the election, once he had become what he wanted to become, he becomes a Dhamma-based Buddhist, wherein do not fight with each other. We should be doing respect to everybody. That. He said, and politicians do this. They will use very sectarian issues. We will do this. We will construct this. We will cut that. We will do this, that. But once they come to power, they can't do it. So what they do is, they no. Everybody should be perfect. Everybody should be right. This and that. Standard concept, what is called as pre-consolidation and post-consolidation. The Dhamma philosophy is a proper politico-religious philosophy, not a religious philosophy. Then you also can use this in the essay paper and can come in the examination. This is very, very important. See, there are only 14 major rock edicts. Total number is 14. Now, some of them are quite interesting and some of them are quite important. This has every rock edict what it says. So, for example, first rock edict talks about no animal sacrifice and festive gathering. Again, it's a proper Buddhist drawn concept because animal sacrifice and festive gathering only happens in Vedic Brahmanism. Now, we are not concerned about that. Now, second one is very, very important because it mentions the southern kingdoms, Chola, Pandya, Kerala Putra, and Tamrapani, which is Sri Lanka. So they can ask you in the examination, which of the following edicts mentions the southern states of the Ashokan Empire or the Mauryan Empire? So these are major rock edict number 2. You get the point of this discussion? That they can ask you the number. I'll give you a small breather and then we'll move forward. Don't worry. Then third, protect the Brahmins and the monks. Doesn't matter to us. Fourth, which is preach non-violence and the drums of war should be replaced by Dhamma, the drums of Dhamma. Okay. 5, humane treatment of slaves and Dhamma matras going on. Again, useless to us. Then 6 is the one in which he says all men are my children, which is this paternalistic approach that I am everybody's father, that I'm going to take care of everyone. I'm going to take care of everyone. So here we have to remember second and sixth. Second, sixth. Then comes the most, which is important, which is 7th. This you can use in the, again, Shabir, the problem is what Chola you are thinking, Raja Rajendra don't exist right now. These are early Cholas. We'll discuss them tomorrow. So Cholas were there, but they're called early Chola, only Vijayala. Now, this you can use in the essay paper or any pair you have to discuss about religious tolerance. That even as early as in the 3rd century BCE, close to 2500 years ago, people were talking about religious tolerance, a principle which we have forgot today. Then the next interesting is not Dhamma Yatra, ritual sacrifice, freedom of evil, Dhamma, Ashoka, this 13. 2, 6, 7, 13, which is, here he mentions, don't have to learn this, here he mentions his contemporary European rulers, which is Syrian, Egyptian, Macedonian, Greek, and Libyan, which again tells us that he was connected to all of them. And if you can remember 2, 6, 7, 13, your job is done. Festive gathering means festivals. If this is clear, Ashoka Dhamma is clear, then I give you a break. We talk about 5-minute breather, then we talk about administration. Because in administration, I need your concentration. He thinks he's great. See, great and all is your call. Diplomacy, yes, 13. Okay. So what have we done till this point? Ashoka, Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, Ashoka Dhamma, the sources, Alexander. Anybody has any issue here? Anybody has any issue here? The location of all of these are given here. Here. All of them are given here. 1 to 13, everything here. Right? Okay. 2, 6, 7, 13. 2 is the southern states. 6 is the concept of what we call today as how he says he is the father of everyone, paternalism. 7th is tolerance. 13th is diplomacy. Okay. No, we take one breather. 7:51 we come back and then we take it forward because I want your concentration. This is the heaviest portion, which is administration. You don't need to learn the inscriptions location, only the outer ones. Done? Okay. See you in 52. Welcome back. Okay. Whether he has conquered the southern states or established diplomatic relations was there. How did southern rulers permit him to inscribe edicts in this region? He's Ashoka. Didn't he tell you that he can kill 1.5 lakh people? So you really think that he needed the permission of southern rulers? You're overestimating the power of the Sangam polities right now. If he could destroy Kalinga, he could have done it to south also, but he did not needed to. That's the basic point. If zero was not invented, then how he wrote 1 lakh? We got it as 1 lakh. The number he wrote was not in lakhs. That is a Brahmi counting. So that is how you interpret Brahmi, that 1 lakh is written a different way. And he can still count without zero is representation. When you write it down, they can still talk about 10, 20, 30, obviously. Okay. Did he really send his yes, he really sent his children to Sri Lanka. Okay, now the last thing which we need to discuss is called administration, which is Mauryan administration. And when we talk about Mauryan administration, one thing should be very, very clear. It is a proper established centralized empire. Now, what does centralized and decentralized actually mean? Centralized means when the king controls the people through a bureaucracy, right, officials. This is called centralized, which is the king controls the officials. Officials go to the people, but the king in a way controls the people also, because his officials are answerable, can be removed, and direct responsibility to king. So here king has all power is concentrated here. This is called a centralized empire. Centralized system. On the other hand, you can also have a decentralized model. The decentralized model would be that the king is there. The king only controls local power centers or local power intermediaries. And these control the people. So there's no link between the king and the people. It is rather power is dispersed here and here. Which will be a more stabilized empire? Which will be a more stable empire, centralized or decentralized? Centralized. Centralized. Because in decentralized, there's a chance that the constituent local powers can break away. So here political fragmentation is very possible. Fragmentation happens very quickly. But when we talk about centralized, that is not true. In centralized, there is concentration of power here. So this is considered a better idea. Here they can revolt. And when they revolt, it will lead to political fragmentation. Yashwant, don't use that word right now. You don't know the meaning of that. But yes, in a way, you are talking about something which Satwan has introduced. But local power centers are local rulers, local zamindars, local what are called feudatories, or for example, a person who is the headman of 5 villages, and he is basically a local power center. I will tell you how these local power centers emerge through a very specific thing. So, but local power centers, think of it like this, that today we have a centralized and decentralized model both, which is that you have, for example, how the IPS and ISS are controlled are through a centralized model, which is that's why it's called all India services. They are controlled by the center. On the other hand, decentralized model is something which is not related to is the way you have the prime minister and the CMs. The local power centers would be the chief ministers and kings would be CMs. King would be the prime minister. What principle are you talking about, Pavitra? Write the principle. Decentralized in state subject, whereas centralized in union. Yeah, that way, sure. Okay. We understand centralization, we understand decentralization. Last was not the principle, was a discussion that this one you're talking about. This is that he is connected to other kings who are there already. So this shows diplomatic relationship and other contemporary rulers across the world. Okay. Now we have to discuss his administration. This is the expanse of the empire, and this is a centralized empire. Are we clear about centralized, decentralized? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. In short, the major difference between them is power concentration in king and dispersion. Okay. Chavan, if you're writing, somebody writing, no, you need to tell me what is it not clear. Vivek, you're doing this for the past third or fourth time you're doing it, still not clear to you. Once more. Centralized is when the king has all the power. Decentralized is when there is local power centers. That's it. Are we clear? Okay. Now, if this is a centralized empire, we know quite a lot about this administration because of Kautilya and his Arthashastra. And it's an efficient centralized empire, as we know, or what we can see from the whole system itself. And the first thing which Kautilya talks about, and is quite interesting that way, is the concept of Saptang Raj. Is the concept of Saptang Raj, or what are called the 7 limbs of rule. 7 limbs of rule. In decentralized, the king is not directly responsible in a way. Now, what Kautilya talks about is that the first limb or the first pillar or 7 pillars of rule, first pillar is the king, who's called Swami. Thereafter, 6 other limbs make an empire. You have the Swami, the king, Amatya, the minister, Janpad, the people and territory. Amatya, Janapada, which is ministers, people and territory. Thereafter, Durga, which is the capital, Kosha, which is the treasury, Danda, which is justice, Mitra, which is ally. Danda, Kosha, Mitra, and Durga. Wherein you have justice, you have treasury, ally, which is a diplomatic thing, and this is fortified capital. Now, what is that one limb which is quite significant today but is not present here? What is that one limb? It's not talked about. No, not media. Police comes in justice only. Bureaucracy, no, yes, very good, very good, very good. Army. Military is something which is missing. But you see how for Kautilya, if you have allies, it is better than having an army itself. And this is quite significant that way. That if you look at it, the 7 limbs don't match with the limbs which we think of it today. If you talk about kingdoms today, they will say industrialists, military, enemy, money. That is the limbs of the state. It's not the people, it's not the territory, it's not justice, it is not the allies, it is rather the defense. This is the army. And therefore Saptang Rajya again can come in the examination. Consider the following. Which of the following are elements of the Saptang Rajya? Remember that there is no army. Please remember this. Can you do that? Kosha is the same word which is used today. Treasury, yes. Okay. Now comes the most impressive thing, which is how Ashoka had divided his central administration and provincial administration. Central means in Patliputra, near him. Provincial means how his provinces used to be managed. 4 provinces were there total. 4. Uttarpat, Dakshinpat, Ujjaini, Takshila, which you can see here. The Uttarpat, the Avantirath, thereafter the Panchpat and the Dakshinpat area. So 4 major provinces are there: the northern, eastern, western and southern sector. Now in the central administration, the king had under him what are called Tirthas. And the Tirthas thereafter used to have Adhyakshas, and under Adhyakshas there had to be 2 types of officers: Amatya and Mahamatyas. Now I'll write the equivalent of today and you will understand it. Think of it like this. Prime Minister, this is Cabinet Minister, this is the Secretary to the Ministry, for example Defense Secretary, secretary. This is like an IAS officer. This is the additional secretary, and this is officer. This is officer on special duty. So if you look at his administration, head of department Tirtha, Adhyakshas are officers responsible for the portfolios under these departments. Mahamatas are the special duty officers, and the last is the Amatya. Is the Amatya, the executive officer. Whoever does whatever he does is this one. Then his provincial administration was equally interesting. He had a Kumara or Aryaputra. Under him, he had two levels. This is one is called Pardeshika, and the other one is called Rajuka. Both of them then had Yukta Gopa under him, and the lowest level would be Gramini. Now the division here is, this is a governor. Now Kumar is when you are the son of the king. Aryaputra is when you are the relative of the king. Then this is urban, this is rural, wherein these are basically DM. Yukta is secretary. Gopa is accountant. Is also accountant. And this is village head. So you can see here, you have Kumar when he's the king's son. Araputra if he's the person who is basically of royal blood. Pardeshik, this is rural, this is urban. And Yukta is a secretarial staff. He takes care of the basic things. Thereafter, you have Thanika, Gopa, and Gramika. We can add Thanika here also. And Thanika is basically a tax collector. So you can see, if you look at both central and provincial, it is quite elaborate the way Ashoka basically used to control his empire. Quite elaborate, quite extensive that way. Wherein you have a extensive row of administrators at each level to manage every small or big thing. Now, do you need to learn this? Obviously, you need to learn this because this can be asked in the examination vis-a-vis what is arranged in descending or ascending order of administrative responsibilities. Or they can have been statement-based questions in which they can ask you what is the responsibility. The simple point is urban and rural both are called Gramini only. It's a delegated, sophisticated, centralized administrative bureaucracy. Looking at this, can we conclude that it is truly centralized? Central is for Patliputra, how you have Prime Minister, Prime Minister's office, central. CM and the whole concept of how you have district administration is this. Yes. Okay. Pardon, when the king can control local officer, why can't he control the people? Because the people will not listen to the king because he is only symbolic power. Local administrator is more stronger in decentralized system. Now, centralized system has high level of what we call as delegation responsibility to bureaucracy. Gramini is urban head also, Gramini in rural head also, because there will be villages attached to the urban center also. So don't worry about that. Simple point is, don't try to look for mistakes because there are none. The simple point is, this is how he used to divide the whole administration. Do we understand the positions? Because then I have to tell, there is not, the story goes further. Do we understand the positions? Yukta is like a secretary, PSO, a person who is attached to the Pradeshika and the Yukta. Gopa is a one who accountant, takes care of all the money. Okay, now you have to remember the tirthas also, because this comes in the examination. Again, match the following. Now here Thanika will be there in rural and both same thing. Here you have to remember them because they can give you match the following and ask you the meaning of that tirtha. So, for example, see, the first four is very simple. Mantri, everybody remembers Mantri. Purohit, everybody remembers. Senapati, everybody remembers. Yuvraj, everybody remembers. So, the obvious ones I'm not going to learn. The ones which are close to each other are the ones which UPSC will ask you because they will try to confuse you. Samaharta, Sanidhata. Samaharta is chief tax collector. Sanidhata is treasury chief. This is basically IT department. This is RBI. So difference between them is one collects, one keeps. Same way, Dandapal we don't have to remember. Police officer. What do you call end in Hindi? What do you call end in Hindi? Ant. Antpal. Frontier defense. Again, very easy to remember. So you have this is the chief of women's quarters. Harem is a word which is used for women's quarters. Now, one you remember here, second, and then Vava Harika, which is the one which is not very obvious, and this one, Prasastri. Four, can you remember? One each day over the next 365 days. These are the tirthas. These are the basic departments which are there. Okay. Then comes the Adhyaksh. Now, obviously, Dhaksh is common to all of them, so you don't remember this. But this is the giveaway. I'll tell you the ones which you have to remember, which is Kara, mines and minerals. Lakshana, minting of coins. Then Panya, which is trade and commerce. Is there any trick to remember this? One each day. You make acronyms out of it, totally your call. Then Sita. Why is Sita Daksha called crown? Why is land linked to Sita, or why is it called Sita Daksha? Why? Because goddess Sita was the daughter of land, Bhumi. So that is why Sita Daksha. Then Shulk, everybody till today knows what it means. Thereafter, Patana, which is ports. So Akara, Lakshana, Panya, Sita, Shulka, Patana. You make acronyms out of it. Learn one each day. That is more than enough. Thereafter, Sutra is also something which you can remember. Something till today we call Sutra as handlooms. And Sholk, customs and tolls. Sura means excise, which means that external trade was also being done. Thereafter, we have also Mahamatyas, which are the officers on special duty. Here, I am not going to ask you to learn each one of them. Dhammamatra is the most common. Remember this one, Dona assessment. And Sena is very easy. Vavaharika is judiciary is easy. This after that, Amta comes from Ant, Amta. Two here. Thereafter, we don't have to learn this judicial responsibilities also, wherein we have civil courts and criminal courts, and we also have a spies department where they spy on the different neighbors in that sense. Now, why are these words so important? Because all of these words were used by Kautilya in the Arthashastra, telling us what was the administrative responsibilities at this point of time. The ones which I've noted, which I've marked, is the most important generally. Now, listen to me. What is the concept here? I've taught you Ashoka's Dhamma, administration. I've taught you also the location. I've taught you the concept of centralized, decentralized, and we've also seen the political history. Alexander. Remember Alexander's story. Political, remember Sandaklotos, Androclotos, Amithroshades. Centralized decentralized concept should be clear. Location of the frontier ones should be important. Administration, whatever I marked, is important. Dhamma, the politico-religious philosophy aspect. Is all of this clear? Kautilya, Chanakya, Vishnu Gupta is the author of Arthashastra. Are we clear about all of this? Yes? Because this is the only thing which you have to remember generally. I told you, add the sources, and this is a very fact-heavy area, but not all of them are like that. Now, the last thing we discussed today and we stop is how the economy and society in trade is working. Now, when we talk about economy, it is very, very clear by looking at the Dhakshas itself. They have very strong control over the economy itself. But we also see that there are certain commodities which only the state produces. For example, salt. And they are called Rajpanya. But now we get to know, these are all mostly prelims oriented, yes. Now, as it is, this whole thing is prelims oriented. Now we get to know about 4 taxes. Now, very quick, tell me, Bhaga is land revenue. Has this word changed since later Vedic period? No. So, somehow this word will always remain the same. Bhaga. Bhag means land revenue. Then it is Vartini. Vartini means road tax. Till today, Vartini is called tax. Thereafter, you have Nishkarma, which is export duty. So when you export something, you have to pay. And then comes the most interesting word, which is called Vishti. Now, I gave you an example. When you go to a restaurant, eat a lot and don't give the bill, what do they make you do? Wash the utensils. Now, that wash the utensils is basically Vishti. Vishti is when you work to pay off debt. Forced work, forced labor is basically Vishti. Thereafter, trade at this point of time, because of the expanse of the Mauryan Empire itself, was quite well. We have multiple references to multiple cities. For example, Rajgir, Kaushambi, Magad, Allahabad, that whole sector, Prayagraj sector, had become very, very, very prosperous. But when we talk about society, there is a major catch. And this is where we are going to stop after discussing this. And with this, module number 4 is going to be over also. The catch here is, see, Megasthenes said that there was no slavery in India. But that fool did not understand that the way he was dividing India, India was not divided automatically. We never had philosopher, farmer, herdsman, artisan, soldier. No. We had fourfold Varna system. And as much as he will say that there is no slavery in India, slavery existed, and in what form did it exist? Slavery existed in what form? What form? Very good. Dasa and Dasi tradition. And we can see we have Vishti also, but Dasi was already there. But the fact is, we had wage labor, working for money, bonded labor, and slave labor all time. But the worst thing which happened at this point of time is untouchability rose in Indian society. The most powerful period is also the period in which Vedic Brahmanism became even more harsh. Even more harsh. in the sense that during the Mauryan period, the most important contribution is society wise the further social exclusion of Shudras via untouchability, where the notions of purity became such that people could not touch other people also. So, before we leave today, let me consolidate what we've done. We started by discussing the Jain Digambar Shwetambar. And tomorrow, when I'll start the class, which is post Maurya, I'll give you a timeline, and in that timeline, we'll keep on adding things. This will become very interesting that way. We discussed Buddhism, Jainism, that is over. Then we discussed how Alexander came to India and how Mauryan Empire was established. We also understood the basic names of these people and Ashoka's Dhamma, how it is a political-religious philosophy. I have given you certain areas which are factual, which is the sources and administration. Other than that, everything is more or less clear or should be clear in your mind. If it is, we stop here. We meet tomorrow. I will see you if you are attending the webinar in the next 15-20 minutes. We'll start by 8:45-ish, 8:45, 8:50-ish. That is an art and culture current affairs webinar. You would have it in your dashboard separately. Done, everybody? Yes? Perfect. So thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Now our story is going to be like this only, but tomorrow quite interesting. Previous year questions. Yes, yes. Now tomorrow, once we've covered a certain portion. Okay. I have Anyam, I have escalated the issue which you sent me. Wait, I will get it sorted. Don't worry. Okay. Thank you. Take care.